All right, I've got a job to do, and that job today consists of maintenance on the Hustler and maintenance on the Kubota tractor. So it's that time of year again, and it is time for the annual maintenance to be done on these two pieces of equipment. I've done a video before on a deck belt replacement and the whole tune-up kit thing on this Hustler. I will put that link in the description so that you can go back and reference that. I don't have to replace the belt this year, at least right now. I don't think so. I might be doing it later on, but right now it looks good to me. So this is just going to be the annual tune-up on this, which consists of the oil change, oil filter, inner and outer air filter, fuel filter, new plugs, that kind of thing. So just a general engine maintenance on it, and then just go through, grease things up, make sure everything's up to par at this point. I've already done a couple cuts already this year on this. Everything's running fine. It's just time to do that annual stuff. And then also true with the tractor, it's time to do an oil change on it. And I'm going to do a couple of extra steps on this tractor this year. I'm hunting down an issue where it's starting to run a little hot. It's not overheating per se, but it's definitely running a little bit hotter on the temp scale than where I'm used to it running. And there's a couple reasons why that can happen. It's happened to me before. A lot of times it just has to do with the grill up here on the front. Maybe just getting, it doesn't look like it's too dirty to me. I've seen it worse, but it's just one of those things you have to do. You need to come in here and you need to clean out that grill real well. Also the front of the radiator, you get in there with a soft brush and you get any debris off of that. There's also a protective screen in there. Make sure that that's very clean. I'm going to be changing out the inner and outer air filter on this one as well. Oil change, and so we're just going to be doing that, and then grease everything. And I have bought the kits for everything that I need for both of these. For the Hustler Zero Turn, this is the kit that you can buy. I got this off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description as to where I got that from. And then I just called a local Kubota dealer and I got what I needed for my tractor. So inner and outer air filter, fuel filter, oil filter, and then we're just gonna do that and then chase that little issue that I have with it running a little bit hotter than I'm used to. All right, so let's start out with the Hustler here. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the oil fill cap here, just to let that cavity breathe a little bit. 10 millimeter down there. This is one of those quick release type of oil drain systems. All right, so got the old air filter out, and I'm going to be putting the new air filter in. Just shove it in. Just show you what I'm doing here. The inner filter was already kind of shoved into the outer, so just shove that inner one in place, put the outer one in, and then put the cap back on. Easy enough. All right, let's get the oil filter off. All right, with the new filter, I mean, everybody should know this. Take a little love juice from the oil drain, little oil, put it on that new seal. Just get it nice and lubricated. Spin that thing on by hand. All right, so putting the new fuel filter back on. I've already put the one in on already, and I'm just getting ready to put the clamp over this in. Something to keep in mind. I've noticed it the last couple of times that I've done service on this Hustler. You have to be careful about the kit. It's still got a little fuel in it. You have to be careful about the kit that you buy. And you can see the difference in the fuel filter size. And that is, be very careful when you get a tune-up kit that you are getting the correct engine because the fuel filter size will be different. Now, I had this smaller fuel filter in here this past year, and I had zero problems. But I don't know how big of a deal that it is, but I do know that be careful that you are getting the kit for your correct Kawasaki engine on these Hustler Fastrak Super Duties, because the fuel filter is different. Okay, so we're going to go after the spark plugs now. Obviously, this is a twin engine, or this is a V-twin engine, sorry. And so we got a spark plug back here in the back, and there's another one up front. And then, so just pry your plug wire off. And it's kind of tight in there, so the way that I do it is I use a spark plug socket, and I just slide it in there, and it's kind of tight to get a ratchet in there. So what I've been doing the last couple times that I've done this is just take advantage of the built-in socket that you have on the back of this and just use a wrench. I use a ratchet wrench to get it off. So that's how I've been doing it. If you have a different way that works for you, then that works. All right, anyway, that's how I do it. Okay, we got the drain plug, or this little quick drain thing plugged back in. We got the filter on, oil filter. We've got the fuel filter on, the new fuel filter, and we got the plugs done. Let's put some oil in it. And the oil that this calls for is a 20 weight 50. I just go ahead and use the Kawasaki stuff, and it takes about 2 quarts. So let's get it filled up, and then we are done. All right, so the service on the Hustler has been done. Let that run for a couple seconds, and then check the oil just to make sure everything's fine. And then we'll move on to the tractor. All right, got the oil draining. There's actually 2 plugs on this particular engine. So got both of those plugs out, let that sit there and drain for a little bit. Let's get on to the air filter and the fuel filter. All right, typical inner, outer air filter type design. A lot of times you can get away with just cleaning these. I've done that for the last couple years. It's time to replace it. These things usually look pretty good, the inner ones, but I got it as a kit, so go ahead and replace them both. All right, just take the new ones and put them in, the inner one. Make sure it's got an open end, closed end. Make sure the open end goes in, or else you're not doing any air filtration, that's for sure. So if you try to put it in like that, it'll go, but it's not filtering any air. So open end goes in first. Just goes into a slot, holds itself in place. Open end goes over. It kind of fits into a slot in there as well. And then just put your cover back on. All right, so what I want to do is take this screen off, or just loosen it, really is all I'm doing. I'm not taking it completely off. My oil filter is back behind here. So I just kind of do it like this. Just loosen that, and then I can get access to my oil filter. All right, and so just like any other filter, like I did on the mower, like you do on your car, motorcycle, whatever, just put a little love juice on that seal right there. That's mainly just so it screws down on there, doesn't bind up on that seal right there. And then just I went with just original Kubota oil filter on this one, but I try to stick mainly with all Kubota stuff on this tractor. All right, just put it on hand tight and you're good. Oil filter is done. Okay, so fuel filter is right here. The petcock was on when it's in a down position. I've just turned it off, and I loosened this up a little bit with that pair of pliers. And now we'll pull this out of here. And of course, there's going to be quite a bit of fuel that comes out of that. And that is the filter. All right, we got that back on. I needed two hands to do that with. So we got it back on. It's just a little bit more than hand tight. I put a pair of pliers back on it again and just kind of cinch this little ring around right here. There's a specific wrench that you can get for that, a spanner wrench. I don't have one. I just use a pair of pliers when I do it, and it seems to work fine. There, on this particular machine, there is no bleeding process after you replace this filter. They just tell you to turn the petcock back on again and let that bowl fill up with fuel, and then crank it back up, let it run for about 30 seconds or so. They say shut it back down. So there is no means of bleeding this system. It's just kind of a self-priming kind of system. So after I get the oil in it, we'll crank this thing back up. All right, that's the fuel filter. All right, so over here on the other side of the machine is where my oil fill port is. Right there, right next to the dipstick. And I use Rotella T4 15 weight 40 heavy duty diesel engine oil. I use this on all my equipment. I use this in my diesel truck, tractor, skid steer. So that's just my choice. I think it's good oil, and I've used it for years and works great. All right, let's fill this thing up. It takes 8.5 quarts to fill this tractor, so about 2 gallons of this stuff. Here we go. All right, just as advertised, it wanted 8.5 quarts, and it took it right up to the line. So, all right, good deal. We got that done. All right, so we got the service done. It's always a good idea to come back and to check this fuel filter. Rub your hand along in there, make sure you're not getting any fuel leaks. You want to make sure that that seal in there on this spanner nut got a good seat so it's not dripping or anything. So I've checked it a couple times and it's fine. All right, so that is the main service on this thing. And so what I need to address now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, that I'm having an issue with this thing running a little bit hotter than I'm used to it running. And I think what I need to do is just get in and clean the radiator real good. There's a cover screen. I'm going to get in and clean that real good. And then also all the vents on the cowling right there, I'm going to make sure that all of those screens are cleaned real well. It's got radiator fluid in it. Changing out that air filter, the inner and the outer, that's probably going to help it quite a bit as well. But so I need to address that. I'm just going to get in here and clean a lot of that stuff up and see if I can get that coolant issue taken care of. All right, I got that cleaned up. I got that pre-screen or protective screen, whatever they call this thing right here. I got that put back in place. Went in there with a soft bristle brush and just scrubbed the front of that radiator. I scrubbed this screen real good. There's some vents down here on the bottom, right in there. And of course these vents up here on the cowling. And I just made sure that everything was nice and clean. That's about all I can do. Just try to give it all the airflow that it possibly can. And I've seen it before where late in the year, where there's a lot of those willows blooming and stuff like that, they'll pile up on this grill. And I've seen my temperature go up on this thing. So I'm hoping that it's just an airflow issue. But for the most part, I've cleaned everything as best I could. And I hope that's gonna do it. And it got its once every decade washing. I'm just kidding. Actually, I probably only wash this thing about every 3 or 4 years, but it got a good washing, got a good service this year, and got the Hustler lawnmower done. I did in the early parts of the video, and so we're ready for cutting season again. Here in Georgia, you know, we have about, depending on the year, of course, but anywhere between 8 to 9 months of a cutting season. So I spend a lot of time on either a tractor or a lawnmower, but that's just the way it is. But anyway, we are all serviced up for the year and ready to go at it. On to the next job.